All right, I would just like to state that I am sweating. That part two, concussion, man, that is a difficult topic to discuss. Never mind, it's, I'm not a big fan of air cons. I'm not a huge fan. I'd rather just have a cold shower or something like that and naturally just cool down. It just feels so unnatural to blast an aircon in the room. Anyway, that's just me. Let's talk about something that's that we all experience, which is addiction. And it trickles very well into the third song, which is Double Happiness. Now, a mentor of mine and good friend told me about a Japanese company that back in the day used to have this sort of it used to be called Double Happiness, and I was just this and I think it's a perfect perfect name for a song, and the genius they came up with that for marketing a cigarette. Man, and it's a perfect way to talk about addiction. It is this sort of double happiness. The happiness that we have isn't enough. We have to abuse ourselves in some aspects to achieve this euphoria, this sort of happiness, and sort of have this escapism. And inherently, it's the sort of stigma of majority of us aren't happy, and we have to sort of abuse ourselves. And I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think a lot of us are just confused, and a lot of us actually don't understand ourselves the way we wish we would. And I think that's a big factor in the in the substances that a lot of people use. And again, this is just one aspect of it. There are many different aspects that obviously occur for an individual to be in that situation where they do take an excessive amount of substance, and they do experience like substance abuse. But I think in some cases that it really is an aspect of disappointment, fear, social pressure, and the big one is this word conformity. And I've wanted to sort of encapsulate all these past two videos in this sort of aspect of one word, and it was first love, and then hope, and now conformity. And what that brings me on to now is this aspect of social media, of phones, of the inherent addiction, and we can almost look at it as a substance abuse. And I don't want to be here and be sort of hypocritical of it. I'm using my phone right now to record this. I have to say, I don't use my phone as much as most people do. But that's just me. I've slowly sort of weeded myself off the phone, and I only use it for the most important things. If I call someone, if I'm messaging someone, talking with people, taking photos, recording stuff. But spending time. Thankfully, I don't have the time to do scrolling endlessly on Instagram and etc. and watching pointless videos. But in general, I've sort of eliminated that, and it wasn't easy, but it took several years to sort of not do that. Um, and in looking at it from someone who's was very addicted to the phone, and someone who's has in some ways control over how much I want to use it. Really, the biggest thing was just putting it down and putting it, looking at the screen and then putting the screen face down and putting it on the shelf somewhere, and then just not using it and doing, and letting your mind be free. And the interesting thing is, when you don't use it and you put it down, you sort of ask yourself, okay, what do I do now? What's the most important thing I need to get done right now? And you have all this endless free time that immediately comes, and then you can allocate appropriately where you want to spend the most time in. And the reason I mention conformity, because for me, my point of view is this inherent use of our phones, the amount we use it, is it addiction, or is it more just because everyone else is using it, so I have to use it as well? I mean, particularly when you look in in the city environment, when you look at those situations, a lot of people are on their phones walking, and this eye to eye contact. If you maybe maybe someone that's been that's meant to stumble in your life, and you doesn't, because they don't have that eye to eye contact with someone. The amount of times you know um I've just basically um just ran into someone that had to move out of the way because they're so focused on their phone, um that it's like they completely ignore everything else around them. They're so focused on their phone that it's almost an aspect of everyone has to get out of my way. um I mean, a funny one to lighten this up. A funny one is when I go into the bathroom, and then because you know um, you know some of us some of us stand when we go into the bathroom, um, and um, you know the fact that it's sort of a very quick thing. You don't have to go in the cubicles, etc. It's still some people turn into a very lengthy process, and they have to be on their phone while they're sort of standing and doing their thing, which I find quite funny. I go in the bathroom, you do what you need to do, like many people, and then you have this guy next to you who's like this, and one hand's here and one hand's somewhere else. Which I find interesting. It's like, really, it's like right at that moment you have to, like, it's almost like you can't. Can you go to the bathroom and not, like, it's if we got to that point where, like, we have to um you know watch something just to sort of uh, um sort of release ourselves. Is that sort of the point we've come to? And these aspects where, like, you go into the restaurant, and you have two people sitting opposite each other, and they're both on their phones, and no one's really talking to it. No one's talking to each other. You see this predominantly with family members, and what exactly is the point of going out when you're both on your phone? And you know one aspect could be, oh, they might be busy, they might be trying to do this, and that's fine. But I think that, if you are going into that sort of environment, you are going into a restaurant, you are sitting down to eat, you know, perhaps, eating and can be sort of done without the need for any, you can have the interaction. It's different, I think, when you're sitting on your own, then fine, you can sort of, but I feel that you want to have that sort of connection with someone else, talking with someone when you're eating, um, is much more valuable than any sort of video you might find online or whatever you're doing online, while you're sort of sitting next to a person. Um, I find that though, when we're in groups of people, a lot of us, you know, are less shy, and do communicate, and we do want to sort of, be part of the conversation in the group. But when we're sort of solo, or two people, especially if we know someone, comfortable with someone, we tend to sort of rely more on the phone than interactions. Um, which is not okay. And again, I'm not gonna sit here and be like, you know, I'm the best in the world, and I don't do this. I've done it many times. Um, but the biggest difference is, looking at yourself and saying, okay, like, you just can't do that. You have to, almost force yourself to not look at your phone, especially when you're going out with someone. When you're out in that situation, even if they are a family member, etc. You really want to have the respect of the person you're sitting with and wanting to communicate with them. And just because everyone else is doing it doesn't mean you should be doing it. Um, and again, that comes back to this aspect of conformity. And when you look at the video, for double happiness, it really is, a big aspect of this. There's an individual on a train, and they have hundreds of people passing by them, but they're just so focused on their phone. Um, and, and the busyness of the world sort of seems to disappear. It's sort of an escape. Um, and the most for me, in my experience, the most beautiful moments, the moments that I'll remember forever, haven't been moments where I've been stuck on my phone. um, doing this video. It's been moments where I've been out and experienced the world. I've had experiences with friends, with family. I've traveled somewhere. I've gone places. Perhaps I went for a walk or a run. I went to the gym, and those moments are much more meaningful than the 500 reels we might watch and send to friends. And then, to me, that isn't, I find that, um, you know for me, I'm putting some people on the spot here, but for me, getting friends to go out and grab a drink is becoming more and more difficult. It's, you know but chatting, for hours on WhatsApp is endless. It's like, I'd rather meet people in person and be like, okay, let's catch up. What are you doing this? Um, but that's just the life we live now, and we just have to be mindful of that, and try to make the best possible changes that we can to better our lives. Um, and just give me a second. I want to think. Yeah, so that, and it is in the form of addiction. And it is a form. I mean, it's not just devices. It's social media. It's this sort of this aspect of of wanting to present a certain image of our lives, and wanting to live this sort of double happiness lifestyle, when the reality is our lives aren't that amazing, or aren't that glamorous and classy, and most people's lives just aren't like that. And it's just the way it is. Some of us, we really have to put a lot of work into achieving this sort of classy, or this sort of elite lifestyle. and trying to fake it on on your Instagram isn't the way to go. None of us, none of us have any particularly any coherent skill anymore in things. It's more just, you know, trying to draw attention on ourselves, but doing something that's going to draw attention, rather than developing, the skill, and putting in the hard yards to achieve this level of status in society, in the world that we seem to all want to be a part of, but we easily criticize. Yeah. When I'm on social media, I see a lot of this, these videos, but yet but yet we also then criticize the wealthy, the billionaires, the rich. But from what I see, many people do want to live that sort of glamorous lifestyle, and they sort of try to present this themselves in that particular way, and then it doesn't make much sense. Um, and again, it comes back to sort of this happiness. Why isn't what the situation you're in giving you enough happiness, and if the situation you're in isn't giving you the level of happiness, the level of excitement, the level of achievement that you want, purchasing a million external things to give you that happiness, and abusing yourself and trying to inflict all this additional sort of gratification on yourself to make you feel good is you're really pushing down that rabbit hole. Um, and when you watch the video, that's a perfect accompaniment of what I want to represent. You have a lot of conflicting imagery, and you have a lot of imagery that does sort of present this level of freedom and happiness. But you also have a lot of situations, and there's a family there, and you want one of the imagery aspects in the video is family. They're all on their phones, iPads, phones, etc. And no one's really socializing, interacting with each other. And don't get me wrong, spending an hour doing that's fine. But then we very rarely spend the next hour socializing, etc. It's more that's our socializing. It's sort of being on their phones. Everyone's on their phones, etc. And it's almost like interacting. It's like a torture for people. And Now, again, this might seem completely baffling to introverts, and be like, I don't get any of this. But even in those aspects, being too introverted is mentally, not good, and being too extroverted isn't good either. So again, it's all about developing this balance. Now, before I get too off topic, again, it all comes back to this aspect of conformity. Are we doing all these dictions, these social media, etc.? Are we doing it because we genuinely enjoy it, and we genuinely enjoy being on our phones, etc., rather than communicating? For some of us, it is. Maybe, for example, if we're introverted, we enjoy more being on our phones, and this social interaction is difficult for us. Or is it more an aspect of everyone else is doing it, so we need to do it? And this comes back to really developing an understanding about yourself and getting to know yourself better. And once you're able to understand yourself better, you're able to sort of step away and ask yourself, okay, what is important? What am I spending too much time on? And if you are one of those people who do spend, too much time on, a particular thing that you find might be an addiction, then perhaps it's important to take it out. But again, I could be wrong. Could be just talking shit, and you should, and you should not listen. Again, that's the whole point of all this, is just I'm offering you a particular perspective, a very broad perspective on things. But this aspect of being introverted and being extroverted is fascinating. And I think it's one aspect that you should look at when you watch the video and ask yourself, am I more introverted or extroverted? Am I being addicted to this stuff? Am I the slave, or am I the sort of master over these things that I use? Yeah, it's a fascinating area to talk about. I want to keep this as short as possible, but there you go. So please, watch the video, and come up with your own interpretations of it. I hope you enjoy them. Obviously, like everything I do, I put a lot of work into them, one of the great aspects of this is it was all me. I edited, sourced all the footage and everything what I wanted to do and create for you guys. So there was no huge team behind me creating this. It's all me. It's genuine. It's just from me to you. And this is just me talking about having an introspection about the videos and what I wanted to share and some of my thoughts about them. So now it's up to you guys to develop your own thoughts, your own opinions about things, and just take, like I said before, my point as a starting point, and just go for it. All right. Thank you so much for watching this 3-part series for this Unnatural Happiness EP, and I look forward to sharing more of my thoughts for the upcoming releases and projects to come. All right. Catch you then.